Okay, class, let's take a look at 7.1% decimals and fractions. The meaning of percent. Percent means per 100 or out of 100. Rewrite each sentence without using a percent sign. 81% of college students do not get enough sleep. So you could say 81 per 100 of college students do not get enough sleep. And then you could also, instead of the word per, you could replace per. You could replace per with out of. And that could be your second sentence. So you could do 81 per 100 of college students do not get enough sleep, or 81 out of 100. You could cross out this of. College students do not get enough sleep. Either one is fine. Now, it said shade 28% of the rectangle. Now, if you count up all of these smaller rectangles, it'll turn out that it's 100 of them. So all you need to do is shade 28 out of that 100. And I believe, yes, it's 10 in each of these columns here. So we could do this. We could shade. I'm going to shade some of them. Just imagine that all of these were shaded in. These 20 and now these 8. So this is the same as saying 28%. Shade 28 out of this 100. Okay, now, remember, finding common denominators for fractions. Let's say we have the problem 5, 6 plus 7/9. First, we decide that the lowest common denominator is. Now we can go off to the side. We'll take 6 and 9. Prime factorization of 6 is 2 and 3. Prime factorization of 9 is 3 and 3. Now we know our LCD is 2 times 3 times 3, which is 18. So it says first we decide that the lowest common denominator is 18. Okay, now it says then we build up both fractions so that their denominators are the lowest common denominator. Now we know if our common denominator is 18, we have to figure out what times this number will give us 18. We know it'll be 3, and then 5 times 3. 9 times 2 is 18, and 7 times 2 is 14. Okay, now, it says now, here's a crucial thing to note, an important fact that we use often in mathematics. Why was it so important that we multiplied the numerator and the denominator of the fraction by the same thing? That is because if we multiply the numerator and denominator by the same thing, that equals 1. And we know anything times 1, it hasn't changed the problem. So that's why we multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number. So it's really not changing the problem. Now, we have here, when we multiply by a form of 1, we change the size of the number, or forget size, put appearance. We change the appearance of the number, but not the value of the number. We can use this same idea to change between decimals, fractions, and percent. What is the meaning of 100%? We know 100% means 100 out of 100. Now, we could rewrite this. In mathematical notation, we could write this as a fraction. 100 out of 100 is 100 divided by 100. So mathematically, 100% is equal to 1. Now we go to section B. It says converting between decimals and percents. Consider the decimal 0.31. To convert this from decimal form to percent form, we will multiply it by a form of the number 1 so that we can change its appearance, its form, but not its actual value. So we'll have 0.31 times 100%. Now we know 100% means 1. So this is really 0.31 times 1. But watch what happens here. If we take 0.31 times 100. Now I'm not going to write the percent sign right now because we already see it. Now we know, according to what we learned in the decimal chapter, when we multiply this by 100, we know we'll just move this decimal 2 places to the right. So that'll be 31. And since we know this really had a percent behind it, it'll be 31%. And that's it. So we need to multiply 0.31 by 100, which we did. There are 2 ways we could do this. We could dig out our calculator, take off the cover, turn it on, and then type it in. Or the much more efficient method would be to remember that when we multiply by the power of 10 with 2 zeros, we just have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, which we already did. So also note that besides having moved the decimal point, we now have a percent sign that we needed. So 0.31, as we stated earlier, is 31%. Now it says use this process to fill in the table below, watching carefully for a pattern. We have 0.06. Now of course, we know we're multiplying this. I'll write this on the side. Whatever we have in these boxes, we're going to multiply by 100%. 0.06 times 100%. We know we'll move this decimal 2 places to the right, which will give us 6, and we'll put percent behind it. Now we have 0.67. 0.67 times 100%. Move this decimal 2 places to the right, and that'll give us 67 and a percent sign. 0.9 times 100%. We know we'll move this decimal 2 places to the right, and that would give us 90%. And finally, 1.55 times 100%. We know we'll move this decimal 2 places to the right, and it give us 155%. Now it says here, the shortcut for converting from a decimal to a percent is basically this. Move the decimal to the right 2 places and put a percent sign at the end. And that's basically it. Move it 2 places to the right, which we did here, we did here, we did here, and we did here. And put a percent sign at the end. Now, we scroll down here to section C, converting between percents and decimals. If 100% is equal to 1, then it makes sense that 1 over 100% would also be equal to 1. Because if 100% is 1, isn't this really 1 over 1? Suppose we would like to convert 28% to decimal form. Note that we want to get rid of the percent sign. Let's try multiplying by a form of 1. So we add 28% times 1 over 100%. So 28%, we could put this over 1, and that would give it 28% over 100%. Now these percents would simplify out, and we know 28, it'll be 28 over 100. And we know when we divide by a power of 10, we have to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So it's going to be a decimal at the end here. So we'll move it 2 places to the left. And we would end up with 0.28, no percent sign. It says here, so we need to divide 28 by 100. Remember, when we divide by the power of 10 with 2 zeros, we just have to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Also, the percent sign would divide out, as we showed there. So 28% is 0.28. Now, It says use this process to fill in the table below, watching carefully for a pattern. We have 45%. Now we know this is really 45% times 1 over 100%. So we could put this over 1. So it'd be 45% over 100%. Okay, now we know these percent signs will simplify out. And then we have 45 over 100, which we know is 0.45. But isn't this the same as, the decimal is behind this 5. Isn't it the same as moving the decimal 2 places to the left and just dropping a percent sign? That's basically what we just did here. So let's try that here. The decimal point will be behind this 0. So if we move it 2 places to the left, it would give us 0.90, and we'll drop the percent sign. Now you could write it as 0.90 or just 0.9. Either one is fine. Now 3%, the decimal is after the 3. Move it 2 places to the left. And we know that would give us 0.03 without the percent sign. Same thing here, 113%. The decimal is after the 3. We move it 2 places to the left, and that'll give us 1.13. It says here the shortcut for converting from percent to decimal is move the decimal 2 places to the left and drop the percent sign. Okay, now it says warning. At this point, you may be saying this is easy. Move it to the left, move it to the right. When the problems get mixed together, people often forget which way to move the decimal point. The best strategy, of course, is to really understand the process and not just try to memorize a shortcut. But here is a memory aid that might help too. Looking at the alphabet as you go from D to P, you move to the right. From decimal to percent, or D to P, you'll move to the right. Looking at the alphabet as you go from P to D, or percent to a decimal, you move to the left. Percent to decimal, you move to the left. Decimal to percent, you move to the right. Now, we have number 1 here. It says write 0.37 as a percent. We know we'll move from decimal to percent. D to P, we'll go to the right. So we'll go to the right 2 places and put our percent sign at the end. Now with number 2, write 26% as a decimal. We're going from percent to decimal, so we'll go to the left. So we'll go to the left 2 places, and that will give us 0.26 with no percent sign. It says write 5.5% as the decimal. We'll go to the left 2 places, and we'll have 0.055. Write 0.0573 as a percent. Remember, decimal to a percent, we go to the right. We'll move 2 places to the right. It'll be 5.73, and we'll put our percent sign at the end. Now we come to 5. Write 640% as a decimal. So percent to a decimal, we move to the left. So that'll give us 6.40, or you could write 6.4. Now we go to 6. Write 0.7 as a percent. Now we have to move 0.7 from a decimal to a percent. That means we move to the right. So we move to the right 2 places. That'll be 70%. Now it says write 3.642 as a percent. So we will have to move this to the right 2 places. So it's 364.2%. And finally, write 0.3% as a decimal. You move to the left 2 places, it's 0.003. And that's it for that problem. Now we come to section D, converting between fractions and decimals. To convert 3/4 from fraction form to percent form, we can use the same technique we have been using, multiplying by a form of 1. The 2 forms of 1 that we have been using are 100% and 1 over 100%. We just have to decide which form of 1 we want to use.